So I want you to tell me about that old cabin down there. Who built it?
Well, I guess my grandfather and his brother, George Brinkerhoff, built that. That was, to start off with, that was where they made their cheese. Instead of being there, it was over to the west, about a half a mile, right under D. Brinkerhoff. Do you know these people?
Yes, sir.
Dwayne?
Right.
Yeah, all right. That was their old cheese factory. You see, the Brinkerhoff brothers had all that country down there when they first come in. They come in 1872 with the early pioneers bringing church cattle. And then the second year or third year, why, they stayed, and that's where the Brinkerhoffs started their to living, was down there where Dwayne lives. And they run dairy cows, and they made cheese and butter, and that's what that house that I grew up till I was about 8-10 years old lived in the summertime. In the wintertime, we lived in Teasdale. My granddad had a house. You're familiar with Teasdale?
Yes, sir.
All right, right where the church used to be. And then you go up that street to the west,
right,
and up on the hill in that big rock house.
Yes, sir.
That used to be my grandparents' house. And they had the store in Teasdale. They run that first store down in Teasdale. And during the cold months of the winter, well, we'd go down there. Back to this house. That was their cheese factory,
Right.
where they made cheese and butter and stuff. And my granddad and his brother George is older than my granddad, and they came to Wayne County with A.K. Thurber, bringing church cattle for a couple of years, and then the second, third year, about 1873, they stayed, and they started building in that country, and they used this house that I grew up to be somewhere around 8 years old, lived. And they tore that house down, that cheese factory down, and moved it over to the place where it is now. And that was part of the old Thurber town. See, there were several houses there. Just through the fence, why, Willard Snow had a house there. That house was moved up, and it's up here in town. You're not familiar with, you know where Ralph Pace used to live?
Yes, sir.
Catacorner north and east on that next lot. That house that used to be there next to ours down the old Thurber town site sits there. Dow Bryan, I think, and Betty got a hold of that, moved it up, and that was a Willard Snow house back in then. And so that down there used to be the town of Thurber, and it's just one of the few buildings that's left. I was got lots of fond memories down there. I was going to restore that, and then if you notice, the logs in that house has never been through a sawmill.
Right.
They're been hewed with an axe. The whole house is, that timber's been hewed with an axe, and that's kind of a novelty in this day and age to people. And I was too late. People wanted some of them logs, I guess, worse than I did, because they went down and, unbeknownst to me, stripped enough of them out of there that I couldn't replace that house. I left that house there after we moved to town. My folks moved up to Bicknell, built a house up here. My son Dwight lives in it. When I was about 8, 9 years old, and it's made out of sod logged houses, and it's a nice home. They done things different back in those days. They built that house in the wintertime. My folks hired a carpenter. Jim Chittister was the carpenter. And about 10, 11 o'clock on weekdays, when people around town got their chores done, here come 8 or 10 men. Jim, we've come to help you for 4 or 5 hours. And there was no charge to their labor. I mean, hey, Willard's and Myrtle's building a house. We'll get up there, we got time, we'll go help them. And so they'd have Jim Chittister. I can remember as a kid, people all over that house putting this up and that up, and it didn't take very long to build that house, and it was built good. Then when they went home, I can remember when they'd go home to do their chores, well, Jim, he'd go over the work that they done to make sure that it was all right. But back to this old house down here, there was 5 of us. My little brother, I guess, was uptown when he was born, that lived in there. That was only a 3-room. Of course, we had a cellar to the west end of that, a rock cellar built up. And that's where they kept the fruit and stuff. And you know, we didn't have electricity back in those days. We had coal oil lamp, and I could hardly see you after the sun went down. But that was home life for us. We're not much different whether we got 50 cents in our pocket or whether we got a couple of million, really, when it comes down to it. So that's where my life's come from, and it come from that little old log house down there in Thurber, and family that cared about their neighbors and their kids.